Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadara, Shri Vasudeva Gopala Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya, Shri Gadadara, Shri Vasudeva Gopala Vrinda.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Hari Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Hari Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana
Haribol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Haribol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Haribol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Haribol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Haribol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Haribol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Haribol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Haribol Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Haribol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gauranga,
Haribol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Haribol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gauranga,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga,
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Haribol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada,
Haribol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda,
Krishna,
Paramahamsa,
Haribol Krishna,
Jaya Jaya
Haribol
Siddhaswarupananda,
Krishna,
Paramahamsa,
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasthayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Gora Karuna Sarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasthayate.
Haribol Namaste. Most of you here, you're just thinking, you're just breezing around, trying to do your own sin, your own will, to fulfill your desire. You don't know what you're facing. You're facing material energy, the three modes of material nature, and it's very powerful that you think that you can overcome it, you'll be subjugated, and you will be experiencing the cycle of birth and death in this material world. So it's not just you come here and you think, oh, just gonna do this program, stand here and sing. It's not that, what you are facing is Maya or illusion. That even though we are now in a place wherein you can be in practice, situated, to be in harmony with what is transcendental, your true transcendental nature, your essence, we are not able to see it. So we are just mind-driven. So we then take advantage of this opportunity. So all the precondition, lahat ng precondition that you are experiencing, the faith you join, the false ego, the identification with what you think, the thinking, the psyche that is influenced by the modes of material nature to dominate material nature, and the feeling and the willing to follow the desire in the mind, then you can see how the struggle to become free is not that easy. That even you're given the opportunity to be able to take part, to be free, we're not appreciating it because of the conditioning. It is because we are not able to experience this liberation or purification of the mind, that our heart, our life is in harmony with the will of God. So it's a struggle. So every day you go on and on and on, the same thing you do every day, and just as it goes along, time moves on and moves on, it clicks and clicks, and then you leave the body. So don't ever think that what we're doing here is just a system, a process wherein you're just breezing around because the means justifies the end. What the means means the program, you're in Madana Mohana Academy, you're given this opportunity. The means justifies the end, wherein what I'm thinking, what I'm trying to imagine in the future I'm gonna get, then you will be shocked and surprised because you'll not succeed. Because you're just thinking, oh, I'll just pass by on. But if you are not able to appreciate and apply what is being given by Lord Krsna, and not appreciate it, and not be having this gratefulness in our heart, to be thankful, we just throw it away, because we are mind-driven. You see, all of us here, it's very important that we must purify the mind, because the thinking, the feeling, and the willing will lead you to oblivion. You'll be lost. All of us will be lost in this dead world. And you look clearly, what you should do, you sit down and ask yourself, where am I heading? What direction am I going? If I follow the mind, all the things that the mind is attached, the thinking, the feeling, the willing, you're gonna leave it behind. And what will you experience if it's not connected with what is your true transcendental nature and the will of God? Then you'll be an empty shell, a dead body. You may be living, but you'll be a living dead. And that shows how we are always in anxiety, that we're anxious, that we cannot get what we want. And now you're trying to use this ample time that you have in this body. And if you misuse it, then you lose everything. You'll be lost in this desert world, in this ocean of misery. No matter how you kick, no matter how you resist, if you are not able to control the urge of the mind, then goodbye. No matter how you run away, you turn your back upon the teachings that will give you light, enlightenment, because you'll be following a force greater than you, illusion, the three modes of material nature. And if you're not in harmony with what is transcendental, then you'll suffer. You are all selfish here. You pursue a life for your own because you have this preconditioning. If you get it, you'll be stable in this dead world. And you take lightly what's been given to you. And how is it being shown? We have no gratefulness. We're not appreciative. That when Krsna sends his representative to give us guidance, we just turn our back, because even though in our heart we have this inkling, we have this desire to do what is wholesome, there is a force greater than us. You see how Maya or illusion is very powerful? You don't know what you're into. That's why This is described as a planet of death. And that simple word, D-E-A-T-H, death, meaning all your struggle will be stopped when you leave this body. So be intelligent and you ask this question. Tanungin nyo sarili nyo, have you achieved success? And if the success is about the urge of the mind, it's about selfishness, the false ego, to dominate, to do your own will, then you're cut off. You have no shelter, you have no protection. No matter how you kick, how you struggle, no matter how you deny it, with all the influence of preconditioning that you have now conditioned. Even the faith you follow, it is under the modes of material nature. Because there are scriptures in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And if you identify with the body, and your mind is influenced by the three modes of material nature, you will be attracted with the scripture that will direct you in your quest to follow the dictates of the mind. So the first person who should be following and listening is someone who can control the urge of the mind, the belly and the genitals. He's master of his senses. Goswami, meaning his whole being is dovetailed in doing what is in harmony with pure loving unalloyed service to God. And our conditioning here is about our non-stop struggle to do our own will. Is it clear sa inyo? No matter you, whatever you do, you may run away, you cannot run because you're inside this body, this machine. And you can never get out of this material world. It's a world of darkness. And what you're searching, if your impulse bodily identification, it's all wishful thinking. Alam niyo yung wishful thinking? Hoping against hope. It's futile. Walang silbi, walang purpose. Because you will be continuing to long and wanting to experience this refuge. But if in ignorance, with darkness, you cannot see and you cannot be guided. And if you're given this opportunity to come in contact with God and you're not able to practice and apply the process to control the urge of the mind through the perfect example, who is a teacher by example, the spiritual master, who is free, how can you be free? You'll be free by just sleeping, taking drugs, talking nonsense, doing work, but not connected with your real longing to be connected in happiness, in joy with what is transcendental and eternal. This Holy Week, this is Holy Week now, coming? Monday. So it points to something. The coming of what? You know? What do they do? Semana Santa. Holy. But what do they do? Under the mode of passion and ignorance. They just want to be saved, to become free from sin. For all those years, you have been, 1 year, you're doing something, and at that time, 1 week, you begin to reflect, supposedly reflect, upon why we are struggling, why are we suffering. So the process we are following is the supreme purificatory process that draws the mind away from matter, the mission of Lord Chaitanya, that in this age of Kali Yuga, the sacrifice is the glorification of God's names. And it's stated in all scripture, in the Bible, O Lord, save me by thy name. So what we're doing here is not based upon sentiment, based upon the urge of the mind. It is an eternal practice, an eternal activity. Not just practice, it is the life of someone who is in the world of divinity, because we are all divine, spirit, soul, life. But we should ask this question, will I keep on struggling using this time opportunity that I have and waste it and throw it away and associate with people who are also lost? You're already conditioned, imprisoned by the mind. All of us here, you're imprisoned by the body. This body is the source of suffering. The mind, the reason you have this body. And what is the focus of the mind? Embracing the forms of this world, trying to find fulfillment from what is not self-sufficient. You're focusing upon the forms because of the conditioning. You think you are a human being. None of us here are human beings. You're not a man, you're not a woman, you're not the body. You're alien to this body. You're eternally the spirit soul. The driving force that motivates this body. And if you're influenced by the three modes of material nature, not guided by God, then you'll be shackled, entangled, and imprisoned in this miserable world, no matter what you do. Just like a person who is in prison. He said, how come the food is not, how come there's no food? It's so hot here. You can grumble till you die. You can grumble. You can complain. But you should ask the question, is there a way out of here? Kasi if you're just grumbling and grumbling, you'll just be angry. The reason you're grumbling, because you're frustrated. You're frustrated, you cannot do what you want. And because you're not all-powerful, you're gonna be under the laws of material nature. So what we should do is to be aware of who am I, why am I here? Then through the process that's given to us, you can now sit down and see, and where am I going? What life am I living? So here, I'll read this and then we'll do short japa, meditation, so we can understand, okay? So Lord Yamaraj, because there's the superintendent of death, there are administrators in this universe that you cannot see with your eyes, but with intelligence coming from God through Scripture to His representative, we can understand that there are controllers here, demigods, who supplies air, who supplies light, the sun god, who gives freshness to the vegetables, the moonbeam. It's soothing to us. If there's full moon, there's two kinds of fire. One is very hot, but the other is very soothing, the moonbeam. So I'll read this. When the queens, because I like to recap something, Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, was killed. So all the queens were lamenting. And he gave a story of a king who in battle fought and also died. And all the queens, all their followers were in anguish. They have no more protection. So I'll read this. When the queens were lamenting for the dead body of the king, their loud cries were heard even from the abode of Yamaraj. Yamaraj is the superintendent of death. So all the living entities, us, according to our karma, when we leave this body, a certain activity leads to a certain consciousness. Whatever state of mind you remember at the time of death, that state you will attain. And there's 8,400,000 species of life, from demigod's body to these maggots. So according to the consciousness that you have, to your desire, if you're influenced by a certain mode, goodness, passion, or ignorance, then there's a corresponding reaction to your activities. That's why we are given guidance. As you sow, you shall reap. Ibig sabihin, kung ano yung tinanong mo, yun ang anihin mo. We are all accountable with our actions. Don't ever think that you can run. Look carefully. Just be in a simple terms, You make a decision to give your love to someone. Meditate upon that form and try to protect that person. And you try to experience fulfillment from your service to that person, misdirected upon the body, and that person lives. And because that person is not self-sufficient, and you're not also God, you play surrogate Krsna, because we try to imitate God. Love me, and that person also tells you, love me. We're gonna embrace one another, suck one another. But in reality, you're not able to experience fulfillment because you're just hugging dead bodies and you're identifying with the body and the eyes and everything. Your focus is upon this dead world. But you cannot see that because Maya or illusion is very powerful. And through the guidance of the spiritual master, where there is light, there is no darkness. And now what is light then? It is the wisdom of your true identity. So what we follow here is not just blind faith that you join. We're not here to invite you to join. We're giving you this opportunity coming from the spiritual master because it's a serious, very serious activity. That's why the devotee is very serious, very grave. Just like when you go to a training, di ba, you want to become soldiers? You go to a training ground. There's the master sergeant there who have been experiencing all those experience in war, fighting the enemies, and he survived. And then you go there, you don't know anything. Your life is just roaming around malls, eateries, fiestas, and you're there and he teach you how to survive. But if you're not serious to listen to him, how to survive, that's why he's very strict, he's very grave. He doesn't play games because it's about your life. It's about my life. So the spiritual master, or if you go to a training, the master sergeant is very serious. Very serious. Because if you are not able to understand and be trained, how can you survive in that war? So now, when you begin to appreciate this wisdom, you'll be denying now material energy, Maya, who is your servant for so long. Our master. We try to serve Maya, but we become entangled, become enslaved. We're thinking, Maya will serve me. Material nature will serve me. I'll dominate it. But what happens? We become enslaved. That is our situation. And you're given this opportunity in this your lifetime. For so long, when you were in a young body, the environment you went into, the school, your association, your friends, you ask them, is it what you're doing, is it relevant to my success? And what is that success? To become free. And what is that freedom? To get away from this miserable world. And if your mind is focused upon this miserable world, then definitely you will not be free. Yeah? Is it simple? Klaro sa inyo? So it's not a game we play here. Just like one time, you go to a war, like for example, may inaanak, he's a soldier, isang kasama nila, is killed, by the enemy. So, ang nangyari nun, you see, it's real. It's not a game they play. So, it's also like that in spiritual life. Because you're facing an enemy, illusion. And if you're not able to understand how to be in harmony with the will of God, you cannot be able to apply God's energy to be able to use it in the service of God. You have this body. You have a tongue. You have an eye. You have this door. You can use your material energy is this body made out of material elements. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. You understand? Now, if you try to run away, you cannot. You're in prison. No matter what you do. You just hide. You'll become like the rabbit in the face of the enemy, the wolf. Just close the eyes. No problem, no problem. Bites you, cuts your head. Dindihan niya? You cannot just close your eyes. You should not be like the ostrich. The wolf is there, the enemy is there. Just borrow the head. You know? Now, if you're identifying with the mind, the urge of the mind, the thinking, and the feeling, the willingness, you follow it because you identify with your body and your condition to try to do what you want, then we're not controllers. We're under the laws, subjugated by material nature. You're under the laws. All of us here. We're struggling to survive. They call this the word of everybody is struggling to survive. But who survived in this dimension? Who survived? None. Because you come here, you're gonna leave. So what will you bring when you leave? And what life will you be living? Will it be the embrace of death? Will it be trying to find happiness through what is different from you? Like this microphone, you're gonna buy this and eat this? You know? You relate to someone, impulse bodily identification. You see that form. And you try to enjoy that form. Dominate that form. Not you. You try to use this vehicle, this medium, this body, which is not you. No? So you're in a maze. You're just hopeless. And then Krishna comes, picks you up. He gives His hand. Bigyan kayo ng chance. But because we are so much in this conditioning of envy to do the will of God, we rebel. We resist. We don't want to hear. We run away. But how can you run? Can you run? Can you get away from this imprisonment? Who can survive? Who can get out? No one. Intindihan mo? Intindihan mo? Pwede kang tumakas? Hindi. Ngayon, kung imprison ka sa conditioning ng false bodily identification, ano yung nasa isip mo? Ano yung nasa isip nyo? To run away is to follow again what you're doing before, to become attached to this world, to the forms of this world. Then what will happen? At the time you leave this body, kung ano yung consciousness mo, you come back again here. On and on and on and on and on. But we're so conditioned to this suffering. We don't know anymore what is happiness. Our happiness is a temporary relief. To be relieved from this pain and frustration through the flickering enjoyment of the senses. Okay? How do you find happiness? How do we find happiness? Through the senses. We're so angry and frustrated. We try to find happiness and fulfillment by following the dictates of the senses. Okay? Either to eating, sleeping, to contact, and we're frustrated. That's why we're angry. So a person who is angry loses his intelligence. When you're angry, when you lose your intelligence, you're misdirected by the queen, what we discussed. You follow the queen of this kingdom. The queen jumps. The queen laughs. She commits suicide. You commit suicide. She eats something, you eat something. You become the dancing dog. So the devotee is someone who is in control of his senses. That is the science we must learn. The science that you learn through conditioning is follow the senses. Because you identify with the body. And look around who is successful in trying to have this fulfillment that is transcendental. So if we are not able to appreciate this opportunity, we will just move on and be lost into this world of darkness, desert world. And you follow the mind. The mind is very powerful. And it's connected with the influence of the three modes of material nature. The thinking, you try to imagine, you're in this kingdom. You want to experience calmness. So you want to experience goodness, an environment that is no problem, yeah? That is the influence of the mode of goodness. The influence of passion is that when you try hard, your senses are agitated. You want to enjoy sensual enjoyment. Sensus, sensual. And if the door is, the queen is influenced by the mode of ignorance, you just want to forget, run away. Naintindihan niyo? Is it clear to you? You're a student. If you learn, then you'll succeed. If you apply, then you'll succeed. Because this process is not by your own power. If you make an effort and appreciate this wisdom, then the Supreme Person, who is compassionate, magnanimous, who is our eternal friend, will be there. That's one thing that's not taken away from us, the freedom of choice. The Supreme Person, He can put us in a big jailhouse, but He allows us to play Lord in this world until we come to conclusion, I'm suffering. Because everything that is here in the material world is about a disconnection with real transcendental happiness. It's a world of suffering. Everything. Whatever attachment you have, it will be cut off. The body is the source of suffering. Everything, the heat, this world is a world of duality. There's night, there's daytime. There are a lot of rich people, poor people. There's pain, there's happiness. And it's all connected with the body. So in our arrogance, we deny. We just turn our face aside. So what can you do? What can we do? What can the spiritual master do? He comes with this protection, shelter, refuge, and He holds your hand. Come, ride with me, get away, go back to Krsna. But we don't want. Our mind, our focus is stuck upon this world. Yeah? So there is a process. In this age of Kali Yuga, the process, the yajna or sacrifice, is not salvation. It's not joining a group. It's not about your faith. It is about what is eternal and transcendental. Your true transcendental nature, living force, life, the living entity who is active by nature, shackled by this dead world, this body made out of material energy, made out of atoms. It's very simple. The foundation of someone who is in false bodily identification, the foundation, the building blocks are the atoms. The building blocks, what you see, is all made out of atoms, continually moving. The law of science, the law of transformation of energy. You, the person, trying to hold something, but you cannot, because all the molecules and atoms are continually changing. And you're just there, trying to hold, but you cannot hold. Then at the time you leave. And if you're guided by the mind, under the modes, not guided by the will of God, His love, then it's a big loss to us. So is it clear to you? Klaro sa'yo? So don't ever think, baby man ako, bata ako, di ba? So you see, just you meet with someone, your attitude is all about you. Kawawa ako. Yeah? You tell something, oy, wag kang ganyan, away agad. You're not able to see you're not able to see that you're the witness watching the anger in the mind, listening to the sound that causes disturbance, but you're not disturbed. You're like the lamp in a windless place, unmoved, untouched. You're like the lotus flower. And by nature, the living entity, all of you here, all of us, we're gentle by nature, caring and loving. How come we're not like that anymore? Because our heart has become covered, become hard, because the mind drives us. And the mind now, the thinking, the feeling, the willing, it's all about our control, an envy, an imitation of God, trying to do our will. Trying to have a kingdom that is an illusion. And what is that kingdom? It's not a kingdom of the kings. It's your little world. Me. This kingdom, it's all about control. So you're aware of that already? That's why it's very important to first understand your true identity. Who am I? You know, let's not talk about relationship with Krishna with the gopis until and unless we have this basic realization, liberated from this false bodily identification, aham brahmasmi, then we can move forward. If not, it will be very hard. And guided by the spiritual master, we can direct what is transcendental, our true eternal nature, in harmony with the will of God. So that is what will free us. So is it clear to you? To be free, first you must understand who you are. You must understand how we got entangled in this world. How we got entangled. Paano ka nakulong dito? Who are you following? What is your consciousness? You identify with the body and the thinking. Ano inisip mo? You're the body. If you're in false bodily identification, you're thinking, I am macho. Di ba? You want someone to love. What if your mind? I am macho. So, iba yung focus nyo, di ba? Makakita kayo, makita nyo si, what's your name again? Magkamukha kasi, ano? Ha? John Kenneth. O may lumapit sa'yo, yung mind niya, thinking niya, girl siya. Kanya, Kenneth, I love you. Di ba? Di ba? Di ba? Is it? It's not true. Di ba? Yung iba naman, nasa katawan ng babae. Yung mind nila, lalaki. Di ba? Kaya sasabihin mo sa kanya, Maria, I love you. Kung sa gusto ni mo, bunal? Dili ko Maria, Mario ko. Di ba? Kaya magpapagupit sila ng kagana kay Tyson. Yung square dito, tapos, di ba? Pero, gagamit sila ng, imbis mag-miniskirt, o kaya maggamit sila ng short, iba suot nila. Levi's, may kadena rito. Di ba? Kaya huwag kang lalapit. Ang tawag sa'yo, bro. Di ba? Kaya pag kinausap mo siya, hindi mo siya pwede sabihin, Maria, I love you. Hindi. Sabi mo, bro, kumusta ka? Di ba? Ha? Kasi pareho kayong macho daw. Macho no rin sa mind. Ha? So, time moves so fast. We should take advantage of this opportunity.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasaya.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya,
Chaitanya
Shri Krsna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Chaitanya Shri Krsna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Chaitanya
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasare Gaurabhakta Vrinda
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasare Gaurabhakta Vrinda
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Hare Bol Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Hare Bol Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Hare Bol Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Hare Bol Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hare Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Hare Bol Krishna
Jaya Jaya Gauranga
Hare Bol Krishna
Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Hare Bol Krishna
Jaya Jaya Gauranga
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Guranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Guranga
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Hare Bol Krishna
Jaya Jaya Srila
Hare
Prabhupada
Bol Krishna
Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya
Hare Bol Krishna
Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Hare Bol Krishna
Jaya Jaya
Hare
Siddhaswarupananda
Bol Krishna
Paramahamsa
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate
Haribol